0 to 100 in 4 seconds flat, 100 to 200 in under 9 seconds, and can even be in the 7s with some minor mods done to the car. Most importantly as well, on the quarter mile stock, this can crack an 11. And I'm speaking from experience, as you can see here. Of course, I'm talking about my beloved BMW M4, my favorite car that I've ever owned, and I still love it day by day. And this video is a review and me also explaining why this is the best bang for buck sports car money can buy in today's market. I know, that's a very bold statement I just made, the best bang for buck sports car you can buy. And now I know people are going to be commenting, you can buy a 1000 horsepower XR6 turbo for that money. Correct. But I think this is a better total package. Now, yes, that XR6 turbo of 1000 horsepower will destroy this in a drag race or a roll race. But when it comes to cornering, drifting, comfort, daily ability, and also enough power to get you off the line and beat 90% of cars on the road, I think this is a better option. Any good car review starts with the obvious, and well, that's what we're looking at, the looks department of the car. BMW M, they went all out with this one. They didn't just slap a good motor in the regular 4 Series. It's not a 420i. Even though, well, the badge says that, but any BMW enthusiast, like me or yourself, will definitely know it's a little bit different to that. Let me show you. Let's start with the most obvious factors. So we do have the hood bulge that came from the E90 series M3s. As you can see, it does make it a lot more aggressive than your regular flat hood. Also, you've got all these lines in the hood to make it more aggressive. Obviously, the front end has got those evil eyes and bumper splits. The next main difference is the wider body. As you can see, they have pulled the wheels out and the arches as well. It is a wider body car than your regular 4 Series. And from the side as well, you do have more accents that you don't find on a regular 4 Series. And the final and most telltale sign of them all, you have to come to the back, a quad tip exhaust. I promise you, there is no 420i, unlike this one, that has a 4-tipped exhaust. When this car launched in 2014, there were 2 original colours that were the launch colours for this car. Of course, you could get your standard black, white, silver, grey, but the launch colour for the M4 itself was Austin yellow, which it isn't, but it was. As you can see from these photos and videos, my car used to be Austin yellow. Not the biggest fan of it. I understand it's meant to be, the enthusiast colour. It's the first of the M4. But it's a bit much for me. Otherwise, the other launch colour was Yas Marina Blue, which was more seen on the M3s, but can still be seen on M4s. That colour is beautiful. In my opinion, one of the best BMW colours they've ever released a car with. And if this was Yas Marina Blue, there's no way in the world I would have thought about wrapping it. After they launched, you could get a few individual colours. And when I say a few, I mean pretty much any colour you want. Purple, green, orange, red, blue, anything you want. You could have it on the car, you just have to pay a bit more, of course. Anyways, as we know, I got Austin yellow, but I decided to wrap it in this Palladian blue color. I've already spoke about it 500,000 times, but quickly, Palladian blue from Tech Wrap. It's a light stone blue with a gold going through it, which kind of pays homage to the original gold underneath. I think it looks awesome, whatever color you get. Some are more in your face, some are discreet. The other thing you can notice when you're looking at it head on is it is an aggressive looking car. I mean, these headlights and the bumper and the grills and everything just makes it look so aggressive. And if you see this in your rear view mirror on the freeway, you know you better move out the way because it just looks like it wants to pounce on you like a tiger. It's just aggressive. And I love that about this F80 shape. The other ones weren't so aggressive, but this one, they just went all out with it. So that's pretty much the looks department covered. But the other things where you can tell that it's not just, your poor man's 4 Series, well, it does have a carbon fiber roof, which is full real carbon. If you wanted to, and you're crazy, you can option, I know you praise yourself, so you can option to get a sunroof in there and it gets rid of the carbon fiber. That is one of the worst options you can do to this car. Other things as well, you do have the different mirrors that sweep all the way in. Like I mentioned, the sides, the front, pretty much every angle you look at the car, it is completely different to a regular 4 Series. So if you know anything about BMWs, you can definitely tell. So now that me and you can both agree that this is a stunning looking car, I have to take you to where you're going to spend most of your time as the owner of it. And that is inside of the car. Full leather interior, M Performance seats, which are semi-bucket seats, obviously all electric. You've got carbon fiber going through the whole inside, and this one does have the extended leather, so that's leather on the dash, the side cards, everywhere. I have upgraded mine, so I do have Alcantara here with the M stitching, same thing here with carbon fiber, and the steering wheel as well with Alcantara, M stitching, and the red buttons also. But even stock, when it's just your regular leather steering wheel and regular leather there, it looks very elegant for what it is. I mean, you have to remember at the end of the day, this car brand new was $150,000 to $200,000, so they weren't going to cheap out with it. Once you're inside the car, as you can see, you've got heated seats in the front. Like I mentioned, full leather, electric and memory seats. Obviously, air conditioning and cooling and heating, everything you want there. Bluetooth connectivity, navigation, and you can retrofit CarPlay in it. Now, I know this is a 10-year-old car, but to have all these features standard, it is pretty impressive. Along with that, you do have a heads-up display, which is a bit hard to see, but when I put in sports mode, there you go, it even shows you your revs up there. So for a decade-old car, I don't think that's too bad. Coming down here is your gear selector, a bit different from your regular 4 Series one. As you can see, there's no park in it, it's a DCT. So you either flick it over for drive, left for neutral, or left and up for reverse and your cameras turn on. But if you're in drive and you flick it over, you can also go manual mode, up and down. Now, there's all these special buttons around it as well. It's literally like a cockpit. You can put whatever you want. There is your traction button. Don't press that unless you know how to drive a car. That is how hard you want the car to rev out. If in automatic mode, you want it to rev all the way to 7,000 revs. Your suspension, if you want it softer or harder. Your steering, if you want it softer or harder, and that's your parking sensors. And then here is how aggressive you want the DCT transmission to be. You can see it all in front of you on the dash. As you can see, I can change all different modes. I've got Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. And then if I want to change the transmission as well, I can flick through these to make it the most aggressive. So at the moment, I'm in the most aggressive mode. If I press and hold traction control, that will also turn off. But if I tap it once, it will turn on MDM, which will save you from ending up in that tree. Essentially what that is, the car will spin the wheels, but the second it tells you about to spin out, well, it's going to kick back in and save you. When it's fully off, it's in your hands. You're probably thinking though, that's such a pain. If someone pulls up next to me and I want to race them, I've got to play around here pressing all these buttons. Good thing BMW thought of that. I've made them red so you can't miss them. That's your M1 and M2 button. You can configure them however you want. So M1, I've got in my comfort mode. As you can see when I press that, M1 comes up on the screen, everything's in full comfort mode. But when I press M2, it comes up with a warning, and you can see everything's in Sport Plus, MDM on, traction off. So that is straight away ready to go. So if someone pulls up to you and you're just cruising quickly, press that one twice and you're ready to go. I just want to say, you'll never experience it till you drive one, but that DCT transmission is actually amazing. It feels like you're in a race car. Now, I've driven a few race cars, like GT3 RS and Aston Martins and stuff like that, proper sports cars, and they've got single clutch and dual clutch transmissions. And this feels just as good as those. It's so enjoyable, it's so responsive, and it's so aggressive. Unlike, not to slander my own BMW family, the ZF. It's an amazing transmission. It's more cruisy. You change gear and it revs out and then it goes to the next one, whereas this one revs bang straight to the next one. It's like a gunshot how quick it is. Final thing to note in the interior is the space. Now, I'm 6'1" and I fit perfectly in my driving seat. I'm very comfortable, I've got plenty of headroom and I've got plenty of leg room. But what happens if someone wants to sit in those back seats back there? Well, 6'1" me is going to demonstrate. As I get in my driving seat, like I just said, I've got plenty of space. I'm pretty comfortable, my arms are in a good position. I've got quite a bit of headroom. I've got about that much headroom for a coupe, so plenty of space, and I'm enjoying my life driving this car. But let's say you've got passengers that need to hop in the back. Let's see how they fit. To make it a fair comparison, I'm not going to move the seat. So this is my driving position. I'm not going to move it closer. If I was driving, how would someone fit behind me? So you just pull it forward. It actually has electronic buttons if you want to move it back and forth just to get in. So I'll move it forward so I can get in first. Oh, okay. There we go. So when I'm sitting back here, it's actually fairly comfortable. My hair is just touching the roof. So if I lean back, my head's going to hit the roof. But if I pull this back to how it was, not a lot of space. My knees are touching the back of the seat, and if I lean back, my head's hitting the roof. So if it was a 10-15 minute drive, I wouldn't complain, but I wouldn't go on a road trip for 2-3 hours because then I'd be cramped and in pain. Being performance Nick, of course I have to talk about the performance. I mean, it is a sports car at the end of the day. Under the bonnet, we have the iconic S55 3-litre twin-turbo motor from BMW. This motor stock makes about 430 horsepower in the base model variant, going up to 450 in the competition, and about 550 Newton meters of torque. Not too bad for a stock car. Once you throw in about $5,000 to $6,000 in mods and you do your intakes and your downpipes and you give it a tune, well, you can make around 550 horsepower and Newton meters probably about 700, if not more. Only problem with that is, this isn't a 340i. You can't mod it and just, sleep easy. This thing is notorious, you'll see it all over the internet, crank hub failure. And if that happens, because it slips because you're making too much power, you're looking at around $4,000 to $5,000 repair bill. Now, you can do a preventative mod, which costs about $1,000, if not more, to prevent it from happening, but it is a lot of labor to get it done. So if you are gonna modify the car and you don't want to spend all the money to do the crank hub, fingers crossed, I'm praying for you, because when that light comes on, you're gonna be crying. I've already made a full video explaining why I like this more than any of the B58 cars, even though they are quicker in a straight line. These M4s, they come with a lot more kit that those cars don't. For example, you've got M Performance brakes that come standard. The driveline, suspension, and LSD are all made for an M car, which means it handles and drives like a real sports car. So that means you can do drifts like this, or you can take the track and corner like this. With that S55 at the front, of course it has to have a nice sound at the back. Now my car has got the $10,000 M Performance BMW exhaust, so it's a lot louder than your stock one. But even when I had the stock exhaust, it didn't sound bad at all. The good thing about these exhausts, which is awesome in my opinion, they are valved. So when you're in M1 and M2 mode, when you press that button, you'll actually open the valve, you'll hear the beep, and then, well, that's when the real sound's out. So I'll put a stock exhaust clip, open and closed, and then, well, we'll hear what it sounds like now on cold start, and also when you change that valve. But as we know, the best way to test any car is, to drive the thing, because that's what it's made for. Like I said before, this thing drives like it's on rails when you want it to, but it also can be loose and rowdy if you want it to at the same time. And it all changes the press of a button. Once you go in that M2 mode and your traction turns off, then it's gonna slip and slide all over the shop. And I've got the M Performance exhaust, as I said, and the sound, it's just aggressive. It does that jumping because of the DCT, but man, the sound is just, it's just intoxicating. You love it. You love it every time you hit that accelerator. Now, let me go around the corner here. I'll take it at some speed. There we go, little downshift. And it just sticks perfectly. Honestly, if you wanted it for a track car, you've got the right car, because it just does it perfectly. But then when you accelerate, it's got plenty of go also. And keep in mind, this car is completely stock, and I'm more than satisfied driving it with this power. I've done plenty of driving videos in the car, including me going to the drag strip, so you can see its performance. But look, when you put your foot down, it spins, and that's the fun part. It just keeps you on your toes. And it's controllable spin, whereas other cars, it might just be me. Like I've driven C63S's and other high power rear drive cars. Some of them are a bit of like a pig to control, whereas this one, when it's spinning, as long as you're steering in the right direction and you have good throttle control, well, it's going to keep you going, in the same direction that you're aiming for it to. Now, this doesn't have much to do with the drive itself, but it's something that you notice every time you drive a car like this. It turns heads. I mean, it might just be the color or whatever it is. Like, for example, I'm just driving through the car park of just a park here in the area, and everyone's head is turning. I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. But you can tell it's not just a regular 4 Series. I mean, if I was just driving a white 428i, no one would be turning their heads. But when it's obviously a color like this, BMW M4 with that nice sound coming out the back, all the kids are looking, and even the adults, they're either looking in love or in disgust. It's hard to tell half the time, but you get some attention. But again, that's a double-edged sword. You sometimes don't want all the attention, especially if you're driving a sports car aggressively. It's a sports car, so it's not really fair to compare it on this, but I thought I'd just, shed some light of it, because it does come in the full picture when buying one. The fuel consumption on this car, for a sports car, well, it's incredible. Most of these big sports cars and muscle cars have big V8s, which a full tank of fuel will last you like 350 kilometers, and that's $120 of fuel down the drain. Now, this 6-cylinder might not sound as good as the V8s, but the fuel bill might entice you a little bit more. This fuel tank is 60 litres, and of course you can only fuel it up with the best fuel available, which in Australia is 98 octane. And advertised online, this drinks 8.3 litres per 100. which for an M car is crazy. They also say on a full tank that this car can get 725 k's range, which I find hard to believe, but that's what they say. Realistically, in average day driving, I get around 11 to 12 litres per 100, and the fuel tank's around 550 to 600 k's. So when you talk bang for buck, it's definitely up there, especially when you compare it to the C63 or a Holden SS Commodore. It's not really close. So I've gone through the car, the looks, the performance, the sound, the drive, the daily ability, everything. And why do I think this is the best bang for buck car you can buy in Australia? Well, in Australia, a car like this will run you anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000. In that price range, you can get a A45 or RS3. Great cars, I've driven them both and I've owned an A45. We've got the 204 C63 of the 6.3 V8. Amazing car, sounds incredible, but to drive this is more precise, I find. It's like a surgical knife versus a chainsaw. The fuel comparison, obviously, there's no comparison there, it's crazy. And then it's very outdated, looks-wise, technology, everything, it's just uncomparable. And like I mentioned at the start of the video, I don't think modified cars is a fair comparison. For example, for $60,000, you can get a 1,000 horsepower Ford Falcon or Commodore or Evo that's fully done up. But everything is not standard on that car, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but you can't daily a car that's running race fuel, which gets 150 kilometers on a full tank. The suspension is as stiff as rocks. You've got bucket seats that are made for the racetrack. You've got a quick release steering wheel. You've got a forged motor which blows up over time. It's not really sustainable like this car, so it's a hard comparison. Not saying I don't like them. I mean, I'd love to own a 1,000 horsepower drag car, but I know I wouldn't be dailying it like I could with this one. So it's not really a fair comparison, I think at least. And the other thing is that car, you're gonna get defected every third time you drive it, especially here in Australia. If we're talking about Texas, different story. You can drive a car with no exhaust, no bumper, no bonnet, you'll be fine. But here, if you've got race fuel, slammed car, loud exhaust, all that, you're gonna get defected by the police and you're gonna have to take all those mods off anyways to get it cleared and then put them back on. So in Australia, unless you're taking it to the track or out to Mexico, there's no real point driving those cars on the street because you're just a target. So for that price range of 50 to 60K, I don't know what else there is to compare. And even in America, they're even cheaper. For a similar car to this one, you can get for 30,000 US dollars, which is around 44, 45,000 Australian. It's nuts, but that's America. They're cheaper, of course. But still, for that money and this amount of car, I don't see any comparison out there. I'd love to review more cars in the future, so I thought I'd start with my own, but like Doug DeMuro does in the United States, I'm gonna rate these cars out of 5 in 6 categories for a total score out of 30. First category is sound. We heard this M Performance exhaust before, and in my opinion, it's a 4 out of 5. It would be a 5 out of 5 if it sounded like a V8, but for a 6-cylinder, I think it sounds insane. The next one is speed, and I think this car has got a lot of it. On the quarter-mile stock, I'm getting in the 11s, which blows my mind for this car. So I have to give it another 4 out of 5. It's obviously not a 5 out of 5, it's not a Lamborghini, but still, for a BMW, it is a really fast car. Going on to that, you have to go to handling. This car handles like a track toy pretty much. Like I said, I've driven the GT3 RS, and of course, there's no comparing that to anything when it comes to handling. It's a coupe, not a race car, but it handles like a race car. So I've got to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Looks-wise, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's one of the best-looking BMWs ever made. It's incredibly aggressive, and I just love every angle on the car. I'm not going to give it a 5 out of 5, but I think it's fair to give it a 4.5. In my opinion, the most important factor when it comes to buying a car, enjoyment. For me, very biased, 5 out of 5. Like I've said, I've owned this car for over 6 months, and it never bores me. I can be driving it, you know, daily to work and back, or I can be sending it on the racetrack. I don't care, I always enjoy driving this car. Traction on, traction off. However I want to set it up, I always find it enjoyable. So it has to be a 5 out of 5. It's the only car I've owned that I haven't gotten bored of yet, and it's not even modified. And then personal purchase, for me, again, 5 out of 5. I don't see why you shouldn't buy one. I recommend anyone who's got that budget should buy one. This gives it an amazing total score of 27 out of 30. I probably am very biased because I own the car, but I don't know, look, there's not much I can fault on it. Yeah, you can say BMW reliability, but I haven't experienced anything in my ownership either. So maybe if I had some issues, it'd be a different score. But I honestly think if you've got the money, you should buy one. Now watch the market, just go through the roof now if everyone listens to me. So that is my review on the BMW M4 and why I think it's the best car money can buy between $50,000 to $60,000. Please comment down below what you think of this car and if there's better options for that price range, because I need my mind changed if that's the case. I want to thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like and comment down below. Also subscribe and turn on the notifications. We've hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers this year, and well, the sky's the limit. Hopefully we can hit 10, 20, 100,000. Who knows what's going to happen, but the only way we'll find out is if you subscribe and like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.